Hey there. Today I want to talk about our website section called Community Regeneration. Um, for me, the regeneration of community is a very complex and very fraught series of topics and series of conversations that can't really be summed up um, super concisely, but I believe that around it are some really important threads to begin to unravel collectively. Um, in a previous video, I talked about the idea of healing, and on the website, I referenced this idea of community regeneration as healing, rippling out. In the healing video, I talked a lot about it's not necessarily that we're doing anything to create healing. It's actually that we're engaging with allowing what naturally occurs to occur without manipulation, without domination. So for me, what's present at the community level is effectively just relationship with many people. So just in the way that you would kind of seek relationship counseling to help to mediate an individual relationship or to heal individual relationship-based traumas, we're looking at a community level to heal kind of larger scale relationship traumas. Um, and to me, this is, kind of irreducible from or kind of irremovable from the traumas that are present with and from a lot of our early socialization as members of this kind of late stage capitalist, post colonial, postmodern sort of awareness of ourselves, right? Many of us, um, as a result of the way modern education engages with us and the way we engage with modern education, are used to these kind of hierarchical structures of ranking ourselves. And this inherent intelligence around ranking is part of our beauty as creatures. We have an inherent capacity to be able to kind of root out and understand social interaction. It's one of our amazing gifts as primates. And our mammalian intelligence is largely caught up in this social intelligence, this emotional social intelligence. And there's some really important works, emotional intelligence and social intelligence, which are, I think, basic primers, which really should be understood in order to engage with this work. Um, I have a They're on the shelf behind me. They're useful texts for sure, but they are largely still written within the framework of like how to apply those intelligences to a corporatized framework, and that for me is it's essential to deconstruct that framework of transactional and competitive and hierarchical awareness in order to fully pull ourselves back to kind of our core competencies as humans, but removed from the idea of how do I generate money from this. As we, kind of can very easily see now, thanks to sites like Twitch and YouTube and, where these videos are, right? They're meant to commodify and, commodify and transactionalize all of our social interactions just as much as our material interactions have been in the past, right? It's one thing to say, I'm going to give you this object. This object has this inherent value to it. And because of that inherent value and the fact that I have to pay for all of these other things, this will be the agreed upon price. Whereas now we've created what in effect is called parasocial relationships. These parasocial relationships take advantage of the fact that the human brain is always forming relationship and always experiencing the universe relationally. So a lot of personalities, right? A lot of media personalities take advantage of this, right? They recognize that there's an inherent loneliness, there's an inherent isolation especially now, as the pandemic really kind of enters into its, we're kind of entering into year 2 of a pandemic. And that for me is really where we're going to start to see the long-term mental health and, kind of physical health repercussions and ramifications start to take place. And that for me is really some of the complex stuff around all of this work, because we're attempting to deconstruct a commodification of parasocial relationships, remove them from transactionality, right? Which is again why I'm going to keep returning back to this. We are not charging for our services. Everything we're doing is by donation. Everything we're doing is seen as a contribution to our work. The more we are contributed to, the more we're able to contribute to others. And because we're coming from a religious spiritual background, that is the kind of linchpin of our work, is that we are attempting to build safety and trust as a result of being able to say to someone, I'm not charging you by the hour. If this takes us 8 hours of sitting on the phone and talking this through, that's the amount of time we're going to spend on it. Not because that's the amount of time I've decided you get from me today. And that for me is a huge deconstruction of the way that we conceptualize the way our time needs to be spent. There's so many good reasons as to why the modern corporate managerial structure breaks things down into these like half-hour or hour-long segments of time. It allows us all to effectively schedule our lives effectively. I mean, there's some really cut and dry good reasons as to the what's and the whys and the hows of all of this work. And yet at the same time, what it does is continue to foster this transactional nature of our connection. And to me, all time is timeless, right? All connection is timeless, and all of this goes far beyond, billable hours. We're talking about neutralizing generational trauma. We're talking about engaging with karmic weights, karmic wounds that go back literally decades, hundreds of years, thousands of years, that we are all just the recipients of on an unconscious level as well as a conscious level. And so it's really our work in this time, in part of this community regeneration work, to begin to heal relationships first on a small scale so that we can then safely create larger scale communities together around solidarity, cooperation, and collaboration around, in particular, open source sorts of projects that are all about participation, right? Participatory open source community regeneration and development, which is to say that it has to go beyond who can afford the access to the tools, right? This is not just for the rich to be able to regenerate their communities. This has to be for everybody. And that, again, is why we come back to this donation-based services. The other, kind of important piece to really kind of put on the table around all of this is that, there's a struggle around how much of our community regeneration needs to look backwards versus how much it needs to look forwards. I believe it needs to do both. I believe it needs to be willing to learn from the past as well as speak intelligently and intelligibly to the future while living solidly in the present. Right? We all have to acknowledge and embrace what is happening now so that we can use the present to create a bridge. We cannot return backward, right? We end up in these reconstructionist frames of mind where we end up, I mean, honestly, I've done it. I appreciate it. There's so much importance around our sociology, our anthropology, our history, and the cultural sensitivity that is built from appreciating existing cultures in the past, and this idea that actually all of the existing cultures that came before came from this inherent understanding of separation from the other. But now we have this opportunity in this time to rebuild our communities with a new and larger, more inclusive understanding of the way that actually we're all intrinsically linked as one humanity, one planet, one life, one breath. There is no separation out. And I believe that, you know, just like all of us, we have our own ancestral line to follow backward, and that helps us appreciate our shared heritage, right? That everybody has an ancestral um, an ancestral inheritance, but that actually many of those inheritances are caught up in their own kind of struggles around cultural domination. A lot of those inheritances are caught up around who's better than who. Why are we better than who? What am I appreciating that's better than that person over there? How much of these are caught up in petty squabbles between, kind of imperialistic cultures seeking to dominate through propaganda, one or the other? So for me, as we as we parse through our own ancestral inheritances, the work of cultural regeneration and community regeneration is actually about for me, and this is, I will embrace that this is my bias. I believe we have to create a culture and a community around our shared global understanding of humanity. And that shared humanity and that shared global awareness um, connects us to ourselves, connects us to each other, and connects us, more importantly, intrinsically back to the earth. And, I won't go too much into this in this video, but the inherent animistic awareness of our relationship to the earth and how we form our relationships with this time and place as part of a continuum, right? We are neither in the past nor in the future. We are all solidly in this moment together. So it is inherent that we all begin to heal our relationships, heal our ability to connect with larger groups of people around shared work and shared mission and shared purpose, so that we can move forward in time and space together around solidarity. Yeah, and so, I really hope that you can join me in these, kind of challenging and I believe very generative questions around how we regenerate community in this time and space together. And I wish you all blessings on your path. Thank you so much for joining me, and see you soon.